Waloloma elelemo Waloloma elelemo Alubanga yalubango utamako sayabonga Alubanga yalubango utamako sayabonga Alubanga yalubango utamako sayabonga Engelubonga najelizenya ukuthi izindlondlo ziyabonga Engelubonga najela makhosi ukuthi izanusi ziyabonga Engelubonga najela izango ukuthi amadlozi ayabonga Engelubonga najela amatho ukuthi abalozi bayabonga Aushaye wembo Aushaye sangoma Aushaye wemgoma Aushaye sangoma Aushaye wemgoma Aushaye sangoma Aushaye wemgoma Aushaye sangoma Engelubonga ajela makhosi ukuthi izanu siyabonga Engelubonga ajela izango ukuthi amadlozi ayabonga Engelubonga ajela izanu ukuthi amakhosi ayabonga Engelubonga najela maluzi ukuthi izanusi ziyabonga
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together for Dr. Madala Kunene. A very good morning, everyone. My name is Aldrin Simpier. I am the Media Liaison Officer for the Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille, and I am your Program Director for today. And as you know, a bit later on, the President will be delivering the keynote address. And it gives me an absolute pleasure. Imagine a whole me saying, Mr. President, come, now is your time to come and speak. And then as the speaker says, order, 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 that will be all me. All of that power is vested in me. And this is, of course, as we open the 2026 Africa's Travel Indaba. Once again, put your hands together for everybody who has made it to this venue from all across our African continent, beautiful continent. And as, of course, as we know, that this month as well marks Africa Month. Africa Month because in 1963, that is when the Organization of African Unity was formed, which then later became the African Union. And for that, we are now going to ask everybody to please rise as we're about to sing the AU anthem with the Durban Gospel Choir. Please rise, everybody. Over to you.
Let's all unite and celebrate together the victories won for our liberation. Let's dedicate ourselves to rise together to defend our liberty and unity. All sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa the tree of life. Let us all unite and sing together to uphold the bonds that frame our destiny. Let us dedicate ourselves to fight together for lasting peace and justice on earth. All sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa the tree of life. Let us all unite and toil together to give the best we have to Africa, the cradle of mankind and fount of culture, our pride and hope and break of dawn. All sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa the tree of life.
Thank you so much. You can take your seats. Because they perform so well. Bengicela ukuthi ningiphe futhi yokugcina nje. Yokugcina ne? Ngizoyicabanga. Or ninayo. Ngibe ready. Do re mi. Just joking. Before you're going to deliver the next item, I just quickly want to go through the list of dignitaries that are here today. His Excellency President Ramaphosa, who will be joining us a bit later on, as well as the Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille. We also have the Deputy Minister of Tourism, Maggie Sokyu, as well as the Director General of Tourism, Victor Vele. We also want to welcome all the African ministers and deputy ministers who have joined us here today. We have about 22 African countries that are here. We'd like to please say thank you so much for joining us for this occasion as we mark Africa's Travel Indaba 2026. We also welcome, of course, the MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs here in KwaZulu-Natal, that is MEC Reverend Zondi, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Tami Ntuli, the Mayor of the eThekwini Municipality, Cyril Taba, the Speaker of the KwaZulu-Natal Legislature, Nontebogo Boys, as well as the South African Tourism Board Chairperson, Dr. Mzamo Masito. We also want to welcome all the board members of the various provincial tourism authorities, as well as their CEOs. Thank you for being here. And now it's time to bring on the other choir that I once wanted to be part of, but because, as you could hear, my do re mi fa sol la ti do doesn't hit the mark, Deputy Minister, do re mi fa, so it doesn't hit the mark. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together now for the Drakensberg Boys Choir. Once again, let's put our hands together for the Drakensberg Boys Choir. A true reflection of South Africa's beauty, and by extension, a true reflection of Africa's beauty. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Drakensberg Boys Choir. We're starting, of course, now with the official program. I'm now going to call on the Mayor of the eThekwini Municipality, Councillor Cyril Klaba, to please come and welcome everyone who has joined us here. And by the way, the eThekwini Municipality is one of our bid partners here at Africa's Travel Indaba 2026.
Program Director, Mr. Aldrin St-Pierre, His Excellency, the Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa will be joining us shortly. The Minister of Tourism, Honorable Patricia de Lille, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Honorable Tamin Tuli, will also be joining us shortly. Minister of Environmental, Forestry and Tourism in Namibia, Honorable Dr. Augusto Kalikemala, and tourism ministers from around the continent. Deputy Minister of Tourism, Honorable Makotsu Sochu, Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the KZN Legislature, MEC of Economic Development, Tourism, Environmental Affairs, Honorable Reverend Musa Zondi, and all other MECs present, members of our legislative bodies, members of parliament, members of the KZN legislature, eThekwini Municipality ESCO members, Councillor Timbo, Tuli, and Councillor Zamasokabas, and other councillors that may be present, delegates from across the African continent and the world, captain of industry, exhibitors, buyers, media partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a great honor for the city of Durban to host Africa's Travel Indaba 2026, one of the most prestigious tourism trade exhibitions on the African continent. We are proud once again to welcome the world to our beautiful city under the inspiring theme, Unlimited Africa, Growing Africa's Tourism Economy. Together, we gather not only to celebrate tourism, but also to celebrate Africa's resilience, innovation, cultural richness, and economic potential. Tourism remains one of the most powerful tools for economic growth, job creation, and social inclusion. In this context, Africa's Travel Indaba continues to open doors for investment, partnerships, and opportunities for communities across our continent. We are deeply honored that the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, is here with us to officially open this Africa's biggest tourism trade show. If he was present, I was going to say the following. President, your presence demonstrates the strategic importance that government places on tourism as a key driver of economic recovery and growth. We trust that as we will be hosting this event over the next 5 years, you will continue to support us by gracing us with your presence. As a city of eThekwini, we continue to position Durban as Africa's leading tourism and events destination. Our city has strengthened its global connectivity through new airline routes, linking Durban to key domestic, regional and international markets. Improved air access is opening Durban to greater tourism and investment opportunities, while making our city more accessible to travelers and business delegates alike. We are also making major strides in our sport tourism. Our world-class stadiums and facilities have enabled us to successfully host major international sporting events that attract thousands of visitors annually. Sports tourism has become an important catalyst for economic growth, supporting local businesses, accommodation establishments, township enterprises, and job creation. We are proud that Durban is one of the host cities for the upcoming Cricket World Cup in 2027. This is a major milestone that further confirms our city's reputation as a globally competitive sporting destination. Durban is ready to welcome the world once again. We are confident that our excellent sporting infrastructure, hospitality sector, transport systems, and vibrant tourism offerings will ensure a memorable experience for players, officials, supporters, and visitors from around the globe. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, during the media launch of Africa's Travel Indaba with the Minister of Tourism, Honorable Delil, last week, I pointed out that tourism in Durban is on an upward trajectory, as demonstrated by increase in both domestic and international visitors. This progress is clearly visible in the growth of cruise tourism in Durban. The Nelson Mandela Cruise Terminal has elevated Durban's status as a leading cruise destination in Africa, attracting international cruise liners and contributing significantly to our tourism economy. Since the development of the terminal in 2021, the city has experienced a steady increase in international cruise traffic, contributing to the recovery and expansion of tourism. Since December 2025 alone, Durban has welcomed 27 vessels, bringing more than 4,000 international tourists to our shores. This growth in cruise tourism continues to inject millions into local businesses while showcasing Durban's hospitality and attractions to global travelers. The work of the Integrity Tourism Revitalization Presidential Working Group has also made a positive impact in rebuilding confidence in Durban as a preferred tourism destination. Through strong collaboration between government and the private sector, important interventions have been implemented to improve tourism infrastructure, destination marketing, service delivery, and the overall visitor experience. These efforts are helping to restore investor confidence and ensure sustainable tourism growth in our city. Safety, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, remains a key priority for the city. We understand that visitors and residents alike must feel safe and secure. Through smart policing interventions, the deployment of advanced surveillance technologies, increased metro police visibility, partnerships with law enforcement agencies, and improved precinct management. We continue to strengthen safety measures across tourism nodes and public spaces. These interventions are helping to create a safer environment for all who visit Durban. We are excited that Africa's Travel Indaba also present immense opportunities for emerging tourism entrepreneurs, SMEs, and community tourism organizations. This platform enables local businesses to engage directly with global players, establish partnerships, and access international markets. To all our international delegates and visitors, we encourage you to experience diversity and warmth of Durban and KwaZulu-Natal, from our beautiful beaches and rich cultural heritage to adventure experiences, township tourism, cuisine, and vibrant people. Durban offers unforgettable experiences for both business and leisure travelers. As we officially open Africa Travel Indaba 2026, let us continue to work together to unlock Africa's tourism potential and grow our economies through partnerships, innovations, and collaboration. On behalf of the people of Durban, I wish you a successful and productive Africa Travels Indaba. We welcome you to Durban. Welcome to Africa's home of tourism and hospitality. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor President Ramaphosa there. It's very important to also acknowledge the bid partners of Africa's Travel Indaba 2026, and that of course includes this province that we are in, KwaZulu-Natal. With that said, I would now like to call on the MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs here in KwaZulu-Natal, MEC Zondi, who is now going to join us on stage, and he will of course introduce the Premier of the province, Premier Tabi Tuli. But MEC, this is also a moment where we get to showcase what the province has to offer.
Program Director, Mr. Adrian St. Pierre, it is an honor and privilege to welcome you to the opening of Africa's Travel Indaba here in the beautiful province of KwaZulu-Natal. Your Excellency, President Ramaphosa, your presence here today sends a powerful message to all of us, but most importantly to the tourism sector as a whole, to investors and to the people of South Africa. It demonstrates that tourism matters. It confirms that government recognizes tourism not merely as a leisure industry, but as a strategic economic driver that creates jobs, that supports communities, that attracts investment, and positions our country competitively on the global stage. For KwaZulu-Natal, Africa's Travel Indaba is more than just a trade show. It is one of the most important economic and tourism platforms on our calendar. It brings buyers, exhibitors, investors, airlines, tour operators and media from across the world into our province, thus creating opportunities for growth, partnership, and market access for our tourism businesses. Tourism remains a critical contributor to the GDP of our province and our country. That is why we are fortunate to have in the Premier, the Honorable Mr. Tamin Tuli, who understands the economic power and strategic importance of this sector. Since assuming office, the Premier has consistently demonstrated his commitment to driving economic growth, to attracting investment, to creating employment opportunities, and ensuring that tourism becomes a vehicle for inclusive development across both urban and rural communities. Under his leadership, KwaZulu-Natal continues to position itself as a province open for business, partnership and tourism growth. The Premier has championed collaboration, service delivery, infrastructure development and community upliftment, all of which are essential to building a globally competitive tourism destination. Important, he recognizes that tourism is not only about visitors, but it is about livelihoods, small businesses, cultural preservation, and restoring dignity to communities through economic participation. To all our delegates, while you conduct business over the coming days, I take this opportunity to also encourage you to experience KwaZulu-Natal beyond these glorious conference halls. Explore our coastline, our mountains, our wildlife, our heritage, our township experiences, and our vibrant culture. We especially encourage you to participate in the post tours and discover why this province remains one of Africa's most diverse and authentic tourism destinations. Let this Africa's Travel Indaba be one of meaningful engagements, strong partnerships, and tangible business outcomes. Let us strengthen Africa's tourism story and reinforce our collective commitment to growing this sector for the benefit of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you the Honorable Premier of the Province of KwaZulu-Natal, the Honorable Mr. Tuli, a leader committed to growth, progress, and ensuring that tourism continues to uplift the people of this province. I thank you for listening to me.
Well, thank you very much, Oral MEC, Reverend Zondi, who's our MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs. Program Director, thank you to yourself too. It is with immense pride and deep gratitude that I welcome you once more, as the MEC has done, together with His Worship the Mayor at the earliest time, to KwaZulu-Natal. When you see many welcome, it means you are mostly and warmly welcomed in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. A province that once again has become a home away from home for hundreds of exhibitors, investors, storytellers, and dreamers from across the African continent and the world. To all our guests, we say, Siyanemugela. You are not merely visitors here, you are family. We thank the continent of Africa, and indeed the world, for once again bestowing upon KwaZulu-Natal the honor of being a destination of choice and the proud home of this great gathering. Africa's Travel Indaba. This confidence in our province is not taken lightly. It is a profound affirmation of who we are, what we offer, and what we continue to become. KwaZulu-Natal is a place where stories live. It is where the warm waters of Indian Ocean greet golden shores at sunrise. It is where the ancient majesty of the Drakensberg Mountains stands in silence, conversation with the energy of our vibrant cities. It is where the rhythm of tradition dances gracefully with the momentum of modernity. Here, history is not confined to monuments. It breathes in our people, our languages, our customs, and our hospitality. This is the land of King Shaka, of resilience, of courage, and of rich cultural heritage that continues to inspire generations. Yet KwaZulu-Natal is equally a province looking boldly to the future. We are building a destination where world-class infrastructure meets authentic African experience, where investment opportunities meet innovation, where tourism is not simply an industry, but a powerful engine for inclusive growth, job creation, and shared prosperity. Africa's Travel Indaba is far more than an exhibition of destinations. It is a declaration of possibility, a marketplace of ideas, a celebration of Africa's limitless beauty and untapped potential. And it is fitting that this story continues to unfold here in KwaZulu-Natal, a province naturally positioned at the meeting point of nature, culture, commerce, and connection. As the province, we understand tourism not merely as a sector, but as a strategic economic force capable of transforming communities, empowering small enterprises, and creating meaningful opportunities for our young people. This is why we remain committed, Your Excellency, to strengthening our tourism ecosystem, improving visitor experience, expanding destination offerings, and positioning KwaZulu-Natal as Africa's premier tourism and investment gateway. And we are grateful for the leadership of the Honorable Minister, together with the Deputy Minister, for putting KwaZulu-Natal at the center of growing tourism in our country. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Edelil. To our brothers and sisters from across Africa, thank you for bringing your colors, cultures, creativity, and commerce to our shores. To our international partners, thank you for continuing to believe in this continent and in the enduring promise of African tourism. And to every delegate gathered here, may your time in KwaZulu-Natal remind you why some places are visited once but remembered forever. For in this province, nature does not compete with culture. It embraces it. Heritage does not resist progress. It enriches it. And hospitality is not an offering. It is our identity. The presence of the first citizen, the President of the Republic here in KwaZulu-Natal today, attests to what I've said about all what I have said above. I may not welcome him in this province, but I can only thank him for his leadership during this important time. I cannot welcome the President in his country, but to say thank you for your leadership. We see a stable government, we see a stable province, we see our economy beginning to stabilize and grow. And thank you very much, Your Excellency. And I welcome all who are present in our province. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Premier there, Tamin Duli. And he said it very, very well. We're going to call now back onto the stage the Drakensberg Boys Choir as they're going to render an item. Look at them here. Look at them here. Can you see the African map there here?
African.
Glowing,
And this
glowing, glowing,
is the
glowing.
Drakensberg
And it
Boys
reminds
Choir.
us once again
The same Drakensberg
that this is
that the
also
former
African
president
money.
spoke of.
It's over to you.
Kulezo ndaba
you. That's the Drakensberg Boys Choirs, ladies and gentlemen. And now we are going to call on the Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille, who will also then introduce the President of the country and welcome the President, who will be delivering the keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Minister of Tourism from South Africa, Patricia de Lille.
Good afternoon. I promise you I'm not going to be long. Ladies and gentlemen, I will stand on the protocol that is already being observed. Sanabonani, good morning, goeiemorgen, assalamu alaikum. Mr. President, it is in this building here in Durban, International Convention Center, that the OAU, the successor of the African Union, would in July 2002 launch the African Union at its inaugural session here in the same venue. And ladies and gentlemen, it's because of this history that Africa Travel Indaba held every year here in Durban during the month of Africa Month. And in keeping with the ideals of the OAU and the African Union, I encourage everyone present today to co-sign the Africa Travel Indaba pledge, which reads as follows. Today, we pledge to grow Africa's tourism economy, to tell our stories, and together build a better Africa and a better world. Tourism policy is economic policy. Tourism is an economic catalyst, and it impacts and changes many, many lives. We've seen, according to the recent stats released by the satellite account of Stats SA, that in 2024, tourism created 954,000 direct jobs. It contributed 4.9% to the GDP of our country. And with a record 10.5 million visitors in 2025, we are no longer speaking about recovering, we are speaking about growing. And the growth is because of deliberate actions that we are taking, including our partnership with the private sector, with the stakeholders, and with our communities. So in 2025, Cabinet approved the Tourism Growth Partnership Plan that was co-created with the private sector. And it also includes how do we diversify our tourism offering. And we've seen investment in tourism products already. We've seen an investment of 24 billion rand in the V&A waterfront in Cape Town. We've also seen 10.5 billion rand investment in the Cape Winelands Airport, and nearly 2.5 billion rand right here in KwaZulu-Natal with the Club Med Beach and Safari Resort that will open on the 4th of July. And that is a classic example of a public-private partnership. And all of these investments, Mr. President, demonstrate confidence in our country, demonstrate confidence in our continent. So, Mr. President, also in your State of Nation address, you instructed us to promote the country's unique cultural, historical, and natural attractions. We started doing this. To this end, a month ago, at the southern tip of Africa, where the Indian and the Atlantic Oceans meet, we handed over a 82 million rand project to the Cape Agulhas Lighthouse Precinct, and it now boasts a 60-seater sea view restaurant and a pathway that you can walk from the one ocean to the other. We further, last year, the Deputy Minister and myself, in the Free State Golden Gate Highlands National Park, in a partnership with the European Union and an investment of 120 million rand, we launched the Khudumudumo Dinosaur Interpretation Center. And by the end of last year, we have seen over 90,000 visitors going there. So we also discovered the oldest dinosaur embryo in the world, 2.2 million years old, right here in South Africa. So we are not just the cradle of humankind, we're also the cradle of culture. Just here in KwaZulu-Natal, as part of our maintenance program in the Department of Tourism, we will be handing over soon, it is being completed, a 23 million rand refurbishment and rehabilitation of the Banga Neck campsite at the Isimangaliso Wetland Park. And so the Department of Tourism will continue to facilitate investment into tourism infrastructure. That's why last year in 2025, we unveiled the first 8 tourism investment projects with more than 1 billion. We will have our second Tourism Infrastructure Investment Summit in October this year, and we are discussing with our ministers in the continent how we can all work together. But delegates, let me remind you that we have also identified the MICE sector, the meetings and events and conferences. It's a critical job creator in our country. Just last year, we had put in bids to host international events in our country. We put in 100 bids, and we've been successful with 52 that will take place across our country. And this is yet another vote of confidence in our MICE sector. Because with the G20, successful hosting of the G20, we now look forward in the month of August to welcome all the SADC heads of states here to Durban for their meeting in August. Then, of course, in 2027, we will be hosting the Cricket World Cup together with Namibia and Zimbabwe, and we look forward to working together there. And once again, this shows us the growth of the tourism sector. Including South Africa will be hosting the World Economic Forum, Spring Davos, also here in South Africa. Now, we've also seen the change of the travel trends all over the world. And this would require us also to re-evaluate of how we sell our tourism products and what we say about ourselves in Africa. And in response to that, the Africa Travel Indaba for 2027 will receive a revamp, because we have to look at all the shifting changes happening around us. And therefore, we are calling for proposals from the creative sector, from the tourism sector, to join us in this journey to revamp the Africa Travel Indaba for 2027. And therefore, we have made an email address, proposals@southafrica.net, where you can please send all of your ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, let us continue to grow the tourism sector, because this sector is changing lives, many, many lives in our country. And with over 1,200 exhibitors on the floor today, and I know you want to get out there, with more than 1,000 buyers from 71 countries around the world, it's time to make deals. It's time to do business on the floor. So we are very, very happy to welcome our own president. It's my easiest task to introduce the president, because we all know him and we all love him in South Africa. Mr. President, thank you for gracing us today. And I can tell you, we signed performance agreements with him. And then he calls us once a year to come and report back. So the president gave me a target that by 2030, we must welcome 15 million visitors to our country. He said, Minister, you must also create more than 1 million jobs by 2029. So we've got targets that we are working to, and the president is monitoring us very closely. So Mr. President, thank you for being with us today, and may God bless all of you once again. And we are sorry for the late start, but because of the weather conditions in the rest of the country. Durban, you feel like you're in a different country, Premier. I know Reverend Zondi had an open line to pray for us for the good weather. So thank you so much, and God bless all of you. Nkosi kakhulu.
Habari, Olo, Bonjour, Good morning Africa, Good morning world. Let us rise and welcome His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, get comfortable, because we got a story to tell. Today the nations of a mighty continent come together to remember. It's tourism, not just travel. It's drive, trade, people. It's taxis to terminals, rhythm to runways, footsteps becoming future.
We've got a couple of spots which have dinosaur footprint.
You will hear the rumble rise from the floor. Of Morocco to the markets of Malawi, from the rooftops of Rwanda to the rivers of the Congo. Genela, Pumele, Genela, Pumele, Genela. Ghana's groove, Namibia's desert, pyramids of Egypt. Listen now, we're Queen down, big cool.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Thank you, Program Director. Unlimited Africa, growing Africa's tourism economy. And it's interesting that we could be talking about tourism as a growth economy. Some years ago, traveling into the continent, I met one of the elder statesmen who is the head of state, who said, in the past, whenever people came to our country, the officials, the Home Affairs or the Customs or the passport officials would often ask, as visitors came to present their passports, the question they would ask is, what is your name? They would give their name, look at the passport. What do you want here in our country?
and they would say we've come to tour and to look at the wonderful splendor of either animals or landscape. What do you want to do with it? Do you want to take our animals away? You don't have animals in Europe, so you've come here to steal our animals. And they would continue asking them those testing questions. And he said that in many ways is what prevented the growth of our tourism. But today we tell a different story. We tell a story that tourism is one of the most strategically important sectors to our continent. It is a new as well as an old sector. It is old because our people have always traveled across the various lands that we have on our continent. It is new because it has become an important sector in the economy of any country. I was in Spain the other day and I was told that every year they welcome 30 million tourists into their country. They are like number 2 or so. There's another country that welcomes 40 million and above. So tourism has become an important sector in the economy of many countries. Our people on the African continent have always traveled across the continent to various countries. This sector in the end sits at the heart, but as well as the intersection of economic growth, employment, infrastructure development, cultural diplomacy, as well as conservation and continental integration. This is really the heart of what tourism is all about and what it contributes to the economies of our continent. For many African countries, tourism is not merely a leisure industry. It is a developmental instrument. It becomes an instrument through which we can grow our economies. Tourism must be seen for what it is, a major economic driver, as it contributes billions of dollars annually to many African economies. But those African economies have to create a conducive environment for this treasure trove to be opened, for these people to come to various parts of our continent, to come and see the glamour, the splendor of what Africa has to give. Yes, they bring foreign exchange, there are tax revenues that our countries can get, and there are investment inflows. As people see the splendor of what our continent has to give, they become incentivized to invest. And small businesses also develop. Job creation becomes an added activity that we should rely on. But the more important part as well is the skills development. Skills development that should benefit the young people, the women of our continent, and the disabled people on our continent. Now, before COVID-19, tourism accounted for possibly around 7% of Africa's GDP, directly and indirectly, and supported tens of millions of jobs across our continent. And countries such as Egypt, South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Mauritius, and Rwanda have demonstrated how tourism can become a real pillar of national growth. As Minister Delil was saying here in South Africa, we recorded 10.5 million tourists who came into our country. And when tourists travel, they do not travel empty-handed. And when they travel, they do not travel with empty stomachs. when they travel, they come in some clothes, but they walk away and go back to their homes with more clothes. Their bags are more full. And this is the beauty of what tourism is all about. For countries struggling with commodity dependence, tourism is the answer. It is able to diversify the economies of countries. If, for instance, your economy is more focused on commodities, as many of our countries on the continent are, tourism can give a country an avenue, a new avenue to grow the economy. And it becomes possible, as I will outline in a minute. So economic diversification becomes an easier path that countries can take. But it requires focus, it requires boldness, as Premier Abduli was saying. It requires a country that will directly focus on seeing tourism as a growth platform. Compared, for instance, with other industries like mining and oil sectors, which are more industrially based and benefits broadly the economy, tourism distributes economic activity across communities. It is able to draw in ordinary people in the community to participate as tourists flock in. And therefore it opens more opportunities for everyone. Everyone then can become economically active. Tourism is beneficial to the fortunes of a country in that it has mass employment potential as a sector. Most tourism subsectors are labor intensive because it creates jobs and it is also able to develop multiple skills, but also to upskill those who may well have had skills earlier. For instance, as in hotels. Hotels can be built around the tourism prospect. And this city, this metro, eThekwini, Durban particularly, is a clear example of how tourism has been able to draw in investors who can build hotels right on the beach because the climate and the environment for tourism has been improved. Earlier, some 2 years ago, this metropolitan city faced its own challenges. Challenges of governance, challenges of neglect of the metro, and business people got together. Business people got together with government people and they drew the president in. And we set up the presidential eThekwini working group. No sooner had we set up that group, which started working at a multi-stakeholder level, that we started seeing Durban beginning to see great development. And I forever remember meeting with the business people here, saying that, Mr. President, now that a better climate for investment is being opened, particularly in tourism, we will now revamp our hotels. We will now build new hotels. As it is now on the seaboard here in KZN, hotels are springing up. They are springing up because this province, and my compliments go to the Premier, hotels are springing up because the Mayor has also taken charge of the possibilities that are here. They're springing up because we're creating a conducive climate. And later I'll talk a little bit more about how, for instance, conservation has also contributed to Durban becoming what it is now. We've always said that Durban is the true mecca of tourism in South Africa. And indeed, there are many other cities on our continent that are the meccas of tourism. Tour operators come to the fore quickly. Transport providers, farmers become part of the tourism ecosystem, and cultural performers. For instance, young boys like the Drakensberg Boys Park, they become part of this tourism effort that we are involved in. Craftspeople, event managers, conservation workers, people who can market our tourism offerings right across the continent, the digital marketers, and aviation and logistics workers as well. So this demonstrates that tourism is a multi-focused industry that we all need to take seriously. Importantly, tourism creates opportunities also for youth employment. Young people can easily be brought in and be trained and be part of this exciting industry. Women-owned businesses, and we are finding a lot of women-owned businesses who see opportunities in tourism, the informal sector participation, those who are able to sell artifacts, who are able to make offerings of very unique items that they are able to sell. And people living with disabilities also participate in this type of industry. This is especially important in Africa, our continent, where unemployment, particularly young people, is one of our continent's greatest challenges. A safari lodge in a remote area offers support in a number of countries on our continent. Here in South Africa, safari lodges are set up in remote areas, in Kenya, in Namibia, in Lesotho, and in various parts of our continent. And that leads to local food being made on offer. Security services are part of the whole offering. Fuel providers, road maintenance, and community cooperatives as well. So the multiplier effects of tourism are quite substantial. And it is a sector that we as Africans must seek to own. But the other important thing about tourism is the rural development and spatial inclusion aspect of it, which becomes a very important economic development driver. Now, tourism has the unique ability to bring economic activity into the rural areas and the undeveloped areas. And we all know that investors often want to go to the bright lights. They often want to go to areas where there's much better infrastructure, where there's better connectivity, and tend to ignore the rural areas. But sometimes we can find, and we should work towards that, develop our rural areas around tourism offerings, and also reconfigure the spatial development of our countries through tourism. A good example is, for instance, Johannesburg as well as Soweto. Soweto was built as a dormitory. It was just a place that the apartheid government built and developed just to dump black people. So the black people should just be there and they should be a source of labor to come and work in Johannesburg City. And now of late, Soweto is now developing as a tourism attraction. For instance, Vilakazi Street, where Nobel laureates Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Desmond Tutu lived. On that street, Vilakazi Street, it has become the most popular street in the whole of Soweto, and possibly the only street in the world where two Nobel laureates have lived. Many people now go to Soweto to that precinct. And it is quite possible to think of other precincts, think of other areas. It requires packaging, it requires marketing, and the spatial development of a country like South Africa, which has an ugly history, can begin to be changed around so that tourists not only always throng to Sancton or to places like Cape Town. So where traditional industrialization may be difficult, we should be able to go to more rural areas. And this can manifest through, yes, safari economies, coastal tourism, and heritage and cultural tourism routes. Our traditional leaders are now on a high path of wanting to develop heritage sites where they live, where the kings and queens of our country lived and continue to live, and where historical battles were fought. And that is where the tourists will go to. For instance, with the Battle of Isandlwana, with the 9 wars that were fought in the Eastern Cape over a 100-year period, on how Makado in the northern part of our country, in Limpopo, defeated the apartheid invaders, and how a number of other areas on our continent can be transformed to be real tourist attractions. The mountains of our country, the mighty rivers of our continent. This can reduce pressure on the major cities by creating all these areas and bring about rural incomes. Local entrepreneurs can also be developed, like we're seeing in Soweto. The people who are doing business in Vilakazi Street are all local entrepreneurs. They're all people who've been trading in the township, and now their businesses are becoming much more accessible to all. And we can also develop more community-owned enterprises. Now, countries like Botswana, for instance, use high-value ecotourism to generate rural empowerment while preserving their ecosystems. And in South Africa, provinces such as Limpopo, Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, and Western Cape have also taken steps to derive substantial economic activity of tourism corridors linked to nature, to culture, as well as to heritage. Now, conservation and environmental protection must also be aligned to tourism, as they can gain economic value from conservation. Now, here in KZN, that is being used to good effect, and in a number of areas as well. Wildlife areas can become financially viable. And we can also, through involving communities need to see the benefit from conservation. Years ago, I became associated with an organization that's doing tremendous work on our continent, which is called African Parks. African Parks has developed the absolutely wonderful capability of identifying parks, conservation parks on our continent. And some of them that have gone derelict, that are no longer functioning, they go in there and then agree with the government, mobilize communities around the park, and that gets the communities involved in the activities of the park. Poaching stops, animals reappear and regenerate, and they as a community also get a viable livelihood. So these are processes that we need to embark upon, because through, for instance, conservation, it leads to the protection of our animals, of our rhinos, of our gorillas, of our wetlands and forest ecosystems. For example, gorilla tourism in Rwanda and Uganda generates major conservation revenues, while funding surrounding communities in their own development. When communities benefit economically from economic tourism, they are able to be the real guards of their environment and their area because they become stakeholders. And we can use tourism as Africa as a continent, as a global soft power. This is where, for instance, Africa can really ramp up its own image and use that as our soft power to demonstrate that apart from everything else, we have gods or providences, continued living gift, which is our natural endowment. Tourism shapes the way the world looks at our continent. And too often, global narratives about Africa tend to focus on all the negative things. They focus on, for instance, the wars, the coups, and the poverty, as well as the diseases, the political instability. And what we now need to do is to change that narrative. And tourism is the instrument that we can use. It is the color that we can put to our continent. It is the shine that we can put to our continent and showcase our continent to the world. Not only showcasing, the animals, not only showcasing, yes, the mountain, not only the mountains, not only showcasing our beautiful deserts, but also showcasing the people of Africa, and also showcasing their capability, their know-how, and how well adept they are in running things, in organizing things, in building things, in making things. So tourism gives us a window to the world, but tourism should also give us a mirror against which we can look at ourselves and ask ourselves, are we living up to the dream that we have of this African continent? So the whole continent is replete with all the wonderful endowments. And tourism is what is right on the surface. It's not like the mines, the minerals that are buried below. It is the tourism aspect that can showcase our continent, can show the beauty, the sophisticated cultures of our continent, the heritage, the very rich heritage of this continent. We are the continent where humanity originated from. That's what we need to showcase. We need to showcase the stories of our continent, the stories of the various kingdoms on our continent. We actually need to show the stories and the histories of our people, and that we do as a people. I forever remember going to Isandra to go and hear and see the history of where the Battle of Isandra took place, and how, for the very first time in the history of the British Empire, the British Empire soldiers were defeated by Zulu warriors who were walking barefoot. And it was a joy to listen just to the narrative of how that battle was fought and how the British were defeated. Now that is the soft power that we should be using to showcase our continent. And the same types of narrative can be built around a whole number of other areas. Now that is what tourists like. Tourists will travel far and afield just to come and listen to stories like that. Because the world is hungry for beautiful stories. The world is hungry also to hear horrible stories of the past, so that they can also see how their identity is built. Yes, hospitality is one of the things that we excel in. I'm hoping that as I go around to the exhibitors, I'll be able to see how the hospitality subsector of the tourism industry is now being developed. It needs to grow. It needs to be innovative. It needs to be different. It should not be the same, where you just slapdash, give people food in the same old way. It should just be innovative and be attractive. Now, Africa possesses extraordinary tourism assets. It possesses the Sahara Desert, the Victoria Falls, the Serengeti, the Kruger National Park, the Table Mountain, the Nile, and rich and ancient civilizations and unique cultural diversity. Tourism therefore becomes a form of that soft power and continental showcasing that we should use. And therefore, it also gives us an opportunity for infrastructure development. Once we lock our thinking on tourism, we should therefore then begin to come up with infrastructure development projects. And these projects should not only be the domain of government, it should also be the domain of the private sector, like I saw here in eThekwini, where the private sector got together and said, we are going to work with government to develop eThekwini Durban back to its glory days. It requires, yes, airports to be built. It requires roads to be built, the rail, the broadband, water systems, and energy as well. Now, these investments benefit from tourists and citizens. And tourists require improved airports. One of the things that has made Dubai, that everybody wants to go to, so successful. It used to be a desert plain, but today it has become such a successful tourist attraction. And it has become their only main economic driver other than the oil and all that. But they built a world-class airport, which pays for itself many, many, many times over. And improving airports improves trade as well as connectivity. And improving roads improves local commerce as well as trade. Now, countries that successfully grow tourism frequently see broader economic modernization. Now, for us as Africa, tourism also has another benefit for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. When we know as a continent that we can trade freely on a tariff-free basis, we are then able to become travelers. We are then able to travel from country to country with ease. It will increase travel, and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area becomes a powerful instrument that will enable us to do that. But we also need to enhance and enable those travel processes. The visa restrictions must be lifted. The border inefficiencies must also go away. They must be removed so that people can travel with ease. And there have been successful initiatives in this area, things like visa on arrival policies, single African air transport market, as well as regional tourism visas. Now, these are improvements that are being made, moving away from what the president of another country told me, that when people used to arrive, they used to be asked so many questions about what they want in their country. Now, cultural preservation and also the promotion of identity is also very important. So what should we do on a strategic basis is that we must encourage intra-African tourism, encourage Africans to travel within their own continent and get to know it. The temptation is always, let's go to Dubai, let's go to Europe. And yet there are so many offerings that we need to have. And we therefore need to also enhance the travel ability to be able to travel in the region and lower the airfares so that people can find it a lot easier to travel. And ladies and gentlemen, if we can do all that, that will also enhance skills development. We will then be able to have better skilled young people, and maybe we should even create academies of tourism, Minister, where it is just a clear academy of tourism where young people can go and learn a whole number of skills and know that there is a tourism university. If we want tourism to be put up there as an important discipline or economic sector, that is what we should do. We often say we should put up a school for engineering or a university for this and that. Tourism is a continuously growing sector in the economy of many of our countries, and that is what we should do. Last issue I'd like to touch on is community ownership. We should always make sure that the communities are not left behind, that the people who own this land, our communities, become part of the ownership of what we put together. So tourism, in my view, as your theme suggested, is unlimited growth possibilities. And all we need to do is to be bold, is to be focused, and we will be able to have Africa brimming with a lot of tourist destinations, tourism that visitors will come in their millions. They will come back to their original home, which is the continent of Africa. Thank you very much.
We have the President Ramaphosa, the Minister Patricia de Lille, Deputy Minister Maggie Suku, the Premier Mayor Taba, Dr. Victor Bele, as well as Dr. Mzamo Masido.